Tron just became arguably one of the biggest highlights at San Diego Comic-Con this past weekend. So if you know anything about San Diego Comic-Con, you know it's the place to be when it comes to franchise announcements. Now usually you can kind of expect to see big announcements from franchises like Marvel and DC, and at this point Marvel and DC are pretty much the giants of San Diego Comic-Con, but they actually skipped out on this year. And I'm actually really happy it worked out like this because it gave Tron Ares the opportunity to be the best presentation so far. Okay, so about 2 weeks ago, Disney actually announced the Tron Ares Hall H panel, and ever since then I've just been kind of theorizing about what could possibly be announced at this panel. To be honest, I was kind of hoping for some Tron Ares merchandise reveals, especially considering that it happened for Tron Legacy back in 2010. Sadly, we didn't get any actual merchandise reveals, but instead we did get confirmation that Hot Topic would be selling exclusive Tron Ares merchandise starting on September 19th, and this fits so well because Tron Ares is probably the edgiest installment in the Tron franchise thus far, and of course Hot Topic is pretty well known for being a very edgy store at this point, so it's just one of those collaborations that just makes sense in my opinion. It is also worth mentioning that the Tron Ares soundtrack does release on the same day as all this. Now on top of all of this, something was also going on at the Hasbro booth. Hasbro was actually giving away a random floppy disk to random attendees. Now these images come from Plentiful Props 3D, who is one of the lucky few to receive a floppy disk. Now on this floppy disk you can actually see Tron written on the outside, along with a really faded Hasbro logo at the bottom left right there. Now on the actual floppy disk you can see that there's one image file called Program 1982-2010. Now upon actually opening the image file, you can see the original Tron and Tron Legacy logos, along with the Hasbro logo and a loading icon. Now this pretty much confirms that if Hasbro is actually spearheading a Tron Legacy and original Tron line, that they will also be working on a Tron Ares toy line. And I'm really happy about this because for me this is actually the dream scenario. Of course I always knew that there would be a Tron Ares toy line eventually, but I always imagined that if there would be a Tron Ares toy line, it would be by Hasbro. And this is just because I've seen the quality of the Marvel Legends figures that Hasbro does, as well as Star Wars Black Series, so I've always wanted to see how they would do with Tron figures. Now onto the actual panel. Now this panel had a lot to live up to, especially considering that everybody that was at Hall H for Tron Legacy was actually in the film. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, well you might remember that in Tron Legacy at the games there's a crowd chanting, and that was actually recorded at the Tron Legacy Hall H panel. So of course attendees were expecting a lot from this panel. This panel actually starts off with a bang where two guard programs actually enter and breach Hall H, and something even more interesting is the actual disc that each guard has on their back. It's not circular, it's not triangular, it's actually a hexagonal disc. So it looks like there's going to be two new types of discs in Tron Ares. So during the panel there were two clips shown to the audience featuring brand new footage from Tron Ares. Now I don't have any of the footage, but I can describe what happened. So in the first clip we actually see Julie and Dillinger printing Ares and Athena along with their light cycles, which we did see in the last trailer. Right after this, Dillinger tells both programs that they only have 30 minutes to find Eve Kim. And this is very similar to what I was mentioning in my trailer breakdown from last week, where we saw a 30-minute countdown, and I assumed that it was a 30-minute countdown for Ares to complete his mission, or 30 minutes until he will be de-rezzed. And I guess both are true because if Ares doesn't complete his mission in 30 minutes, he'll probably be de-rezzed. But why does Dillinger actually want Eve Kim at all? Well, it's actually said that she left Dillinger's company, Dillinger Systems, with a memory stick containing important code. And I believe this code to be Permanence code. Now, I have zero idea what this code does because we have never seen it in action, but the reason I randomly bring up Permanence code is because a while back, Joachim Roning posted to his Instagram story a sneak peek at the Tron Ares script. And on that script, we see Eve Kim and someone named AJ talking about something called Permanence code. I know this theory is pretty random, but I really think it could be possible. Right after Dillinger sends both Ares and Athena to find Eve Kim, Ares uses traffic cameras to find Eve on her motorcycle, and I assume that this is Eve's Ducati motorcycle that we saw in a previous trailer. Now right after Ares finds Eve on her motorcycle, both programs almost capture her but slice a police car in half in the process. This is followed by Eve actually escaping both programs and making her way into a circular parking garage where she hides. Athena actually goes into the parking garage to look for Eve Kim, and this is where Eve sends her motorcycle at Athena, which hits her over a ledge. And once Eve goes to look over the ledge, Athena is actually gone. Now this is because Athena was actually unfazed by falling over the ledge and is already on her way back into the garage to complete her mission, which is of course to capture Eve. While Athena is on her way back over to Eve, Eve kind of realizes that she lost her only vehicle, which was her bike, so she looks around and sees Athena's light cycle. So Eve does the only thing that anyone would do upon seeing a light cycle, cycle. She hijacks it and escapes right before Athena gets back. Now I find this part very interesting because we have to remember that Eve is actually a human. She has never been in the grid before, at least not yet, but somehow she's still able to interact with vehicles from the grid, which is so cool in my opinion. Now moving on to the second clip. In this clip, we see Eve actually go into the grid herself, and once she arrives into the grid, she's floating in some kind of water. And this is when Ares lifts her out and shows off what I believe to be the light skimmer. Now, for those that aren't aware, the light skimmer is very similar to a jet ski. There's actually been concept art of this revealed even before Tron Ares started filming, and we've also seen this vehicle in some of the trailers. Now, right after Ares shows Eve the light skimmer, both of them speed out into the digital sea. Right after this, Athena finally sends drones after Ares and Eve, and this is when it's confirmed that Ares has actually gone rogue. And instead of capturing Eve, he's actually helping her and now betraying Dillinger and Athena. As the drones continue to gain on Ares and Eve, they both have to start outmaneuvering these drones and just get away in general, and this is when both of them make it to the portal in the Dillinger grid, which of course sends them to the real world. And that's about it for all of the actual clips that we got at this panel, but there was also additional new footage shown in the music video for the 9 Inch Nails single, As Alive As You Need Me To Be. Now the full music video was shown exclusively to those at the panel. Now thankfully I can actually show off some of this footage because Disney publicly posted a snippet of the music video. Now first we start off this music video with who looks to be Julian Dillinger, and I believe that he is redigitizing Ares here because, as he said in the most recent trailer,
if he is struck down on the battlefield, I will simply make you another.
And then right after that we see Ares actually being redigitized, so I believe I'm correct on that. And then we get a very close look at the triangular disc being activated, which is so cool to see because we've seen the triangular disc but we haven't actually seen it activated. And as you can see, it has a really sharp edge on one of the sides right there. Now I won't be able to showcase any more of this footage just because the sneak peek that Disney officially posted ended right there, but I will explain what happened right after that. So continuing on, we see Athena looking up at the rain, and out of nowhere she screams as she becomes de-rezzed. And now that we have a bit more context about Athena, I think that the reason she's being de-rezzed is because she did not complete her mission. And of course her mission was to capture Eve Kim. And then we see Ares and a bunch of other programs infiltrating the new NCOM system like we saw in the last trailer, but this time Ares is also holding a light staff. Other than that, there wasn't many other scenes that we haven't seen from the most recent trailer, except for maybe some additional action scenes including the light skimmer. Back to the actual panel though, I have to say I was so happy to see that the creator of Tron himself, Steven Lisberger, was there.
It's not so much that Tron was ahead of its time, is that everyone else was late.
He's been attached to pretty much every single Tron project at this point, including Tron Uprising, so I'm always happy to see when he's involved. At the end of the panel, all attendees were given a Comic-Con exclusive Tron Ares poster, which is so cool, I still can't get over it. Now, Tron Ares also had a booth at San Diego Comic-Con, so at the booth they had a life-size version of the Tron Ares light cycle, which is so cool in my opinion. But the main highlight of this booth is actually what was being sold. There were multiple items that you could actually buy, including 9 Inch Nails hoodies and t-shirts with the Tron Ares font. But the main thing that everybody was after was the Tron Ares 7-inch die-cut vinyl. It was exclusive to San Diego Comic-Con and limited to 2,500 pieces. Now on side A for this vinyl was the already released single As Alive As You Need Me To Be, and on side B is a track that hasn't been released yet called Building Better Worlds. Now on the Friday night of San Diego Comic-Con, there were a bunch of lightcycle riders driving around San Diego to promote Tron Ares. And if this isn't the coolest marketing that you've seen for a movie, I don't know what is. But just seeing people drive around in San Diego on those bikes is just so freaking epic in my opinion. Now I just have to figure out how to join them. And that's about it for Tron Ares at San Diego Comic-Con this year. Personally, I'm pretty happy with everything that they revealed, but I'm always excited to hear what you guys think about these, so please feel free to let me know what you guys think. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. End of line.